their whole life, and they go on to do amazing, amazing things. And then nobody really knows. They're like, wait, what do you mean? You're sick or you're not sick? How come you could do all these things? So I wanted you to share that story with us today. And more importantly, I also want to share your connection with cancer, because for me, that's what brought us together in terms of getting to know each other. So tell me a little bit about what is it to look at your life the way you do on a daily basis, and share with us a little bit, because I think people need to learn from our stories, right? I always say our story will reveal our purpose, and I really truly believe that your story is something that people need to hear.
Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here with you today. And I agree. I mean, I think that our stories have the ability to heal people. And I think that God is so amazing in his ability to give us exactly what we need in order to truly live out, like you say, our purpose. And it's an honor to be considered a life changer. And it definitely hasn't been easy. And I really do believe that in our adversity, in the challenges that we go through in life, it has the ability to truly refine our character and who we are, and grow us in ways that perhaps we might not have grown had we not gone through the adversity that we have. And so my story dates back to actually even before I was diagnosed with lupus. I'd had a slew of different illnesses, from seizures when I was 7 till 12, and rheumatoid arthritis at 15, and then lupus when I was 19. And in the diagnosis of lupus, imagine being 19 years old and you literally have no idea what this illness is. You are told that, you have this disease that has no cure, no cause and no cure. You lose your hair. I lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks and couldn't even lift my pinky finger. And I remember lying in the hospital room and thinking to myself, is this it? Am I going to die? And there's something that happens in you when...
And how old were you then? That was you were like a teenager, right?
I was 19. I was just about to go to university. And I actually had gone. I went to university, and I had known that there was something that was wrong. Like, I'd lost all this weight, and I was like in so much pain, and I was so committed to going. I was like, this is a new chapter of my life. I'm going to university. I'm so excited. And lo and behold, the first week, crash week, I'm in my room, and my roommate at the time, Katie, basically called my mom and said, you have to come pick up your daughter. I could not even walk to the bathroom by myself. And I remember my parents coming to get me at my university and seeing me and literally thinking that, like, I was going to die. And the next day I was rushed to the hospital, and at the time they really didn't know what it was. It took a while for them to diagnose me, because lupus is one of those things where it could be many things. It's a disease of 1,000 faces is what it's called. And so it's one of those silent predators. And oftentimes with autoimmune diseases, you really don't know. It's almost like your body is a battlefield. And so it ends up attacking your immune system, and it doesn't recognize the good cells from the bad cells, and starts attacking your organs, your brain, your joints, your muscles, your heart, your lungs in an instant. So you could literally be completely fine, which I have been, and I don't look like there's anything wrong with me.
Correct.
Which is why they call it a silent dis-ease. And then all of a sudden it's like you're in the hospital and you can't breathe. And so my journey really was a difficult one, in that it really shook me up. It woke me up to say, okay, I need to pay attention. There's something here for me to get. And I remember being in the hospital room and just lying there by myself. My mom had left, my dad had left, and my visitors were gone, and you're by yourself, and you're just in isolation, right? And I remember feeling so incredibly alone and feeling so misunderstood. thinking to myself, if I feel this alone, there must be other people that feel this alone as well. And I made a commitment that no other person that would experience or has experienced lupus would ever experience being alone. And so that really birthed the lupus support group that I currently have now.
So before we keep going, this is a very important point that you just made, because I always talk about, even my friends sometimes it's like, David, all you do is talk about cancer. And I try to explain to people, it's like, well, that became my purpose to reveal this story, right? Until you're touched by it, or until you're actually going through something in life, or you find someone that feels the way you do, you don't really understand why it is, right? But I felt the same way. I felt like whatever I had been going through, the pain, the suffering, the loneliness, all that, if I was feeling it, I knew other people were too. And I got that as well when I was in chemo. So when you say that, it just reminded me of that as well. And that's truly important, because today we are all going through something as well. Some of us are really sick. Some of us are just mentally not in a good place, right? And I love how you said that. You don't want anyone to ever feel alone. And I just thought that was just a perfect thing to say. And your group is made up of thousands and thousands of people that are suffering through lupus, right?
Yeah, there's about 14,000 from 100 countries around the world. And what's beautiful about it is that it really was organic. I had no intention that it was going to grow, or that, I wanted it to be this massive thing. It really was like, if I can help one person,
correct,
so that they are not alone, to understand that our circumstances do not define us, that even though we've been diagnosed with the label of something like cancer or lupus, it is not who you are.
Amen.
That we are so much greater than our circumstances if we truly step into our greatness. And so that's really how I've been living my life. And one of the most profound things that for me has absolutely been a life changer and a game changer in my life has been truly being in the presence of gratitude and saying thank you as opposed to asking why. And I think oftentimes, especially when you're diagnosed with a disease like that, like I was in a wheelchair for 6 months, I lost paralysis all in my right side and I couldn't walk, I had to learn to walk. And I remember this moment, this beautiful moment with my mom. And my mom and I, like, she's my best friend, and she's seen me through everything. And when I couldn't walk, and I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself, and I couldn't feed myself, I was an adult. And my mom, I remember her pushing me into the bathroom in the hospital, and just a moment where we were looking at each other, and I saw her soul and she saw mine, and she just started bathing me, and I was bawling my eyes out in humility. To experience that beautiful moment with my mother was extraordinary, and it was an expression of unconditional love.
Correct. Amen.
And while, of course, we experience that with our family, it's like these types of moments, in the essence of the pain and the misunderstanding and the confusion of experiencing an illness and a disease, we gather so many blessings along the way if we are willing to pay attention and to see them as blessings. And so it really is an extraordinary journey for me, and I really decided that in my life, I am somebody that is so committed to service.
Yes.
And I really believe that in my healing journey and on my healing journey, service to humanity has been something that has been a great contributor in my healing. And so when I you know, was going through all of this, I aligned myself with different charities and nonprofit organizations that I really felt called to. And I think you would agree that we all know somebody that's had cancer.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
yeah. I'm the
Like,
first one.
all of us.
I say that all the time.
It's such just a prevalent
Correct.
disease. And so my aunt was diagnosed with cancer. And I just remember going with her to chemotherapy and being around the experience of having, been diagnosed with lupus. It was an experience in itself. And oftentimes with lupus patients, they too have to have chemo. And that's something a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
And I decided that I was going to work at the Canadian Cancer Society in Canada and really be a stand for prevention and bringing awareness and education to how we can prevent cancer. And obviously, there are many factors to cancer. However, there's a lot of contributors in terms of healthy eating and nourishment and physical activity and preventative measures that we can take on a daily basis that can really steer us in a direction of optimum health. And so that was an amazing experience that I got to have, being able to work with a number of volunteers that really stood for being advocates for, cancer awareness and really impacting people more so than anything, not to speak to the actual disease per se, but to speak to wellness. And that's the conversation that I love to have, is to empower people to remember that if you can understand that there is a beautiful journey from illness to wellness, and there's an alchemy in the existence of healing that coexists even in the presence of disease, it's a beautiful creation that we get to experience if we can see it as a miracle.
Amen.
So,
well, I would say that, when I listen to you talk about your charities and all the other things that you're doing right now, for me, of course, with my nonprofit and how I feel about children with cancer, one of the things that I always talk about is that, just like what you said about when you're sick, like even today, there's times that I'm in so much pain for whatever, if it's through working out, if it's through whatever happens, right? Twist my ankle or something happens, and it doesn't stop me because I've gone through so much that those little things for me is like, okay, it is whatever. My neuropathy flares up. Okay, it's whatever. It doesn't stop me. Well, if I look back and I think as a 15-year-old or a 19-year-old like you were, or anything like that, and I would twist my ankle in practice and I would be like, it was the end of the world. And those are the things that I think when I'm listening to you speak, it reminds me of that after going through so much suffering or so much pain, those things in life don't really stop us anymore. We don't even pay attention to it. We're like, okay, why? Because we've overcome so much. And I feel like you sharing your story is a way of hopefully people getting to learn about this could be worse. You better be you better be grateful. You better be thankful. You better look at your life in a way of gratitude that you're not in a hospital, that you're not going through these things, that you're not trying to figure out why you don't feel good. And right? And there's more people that are in the feel good category, but yet today every little thing is like the end of the world. It's like you hit it, you stub your toe or you broke a nail or something, and it's and I'm being sarcastic, of course, but I'm trying to make a point. Hopefully everybody understands it.
yeah.
So how was your experience with the cancer charity, with the Cancer Foundation in Canada? How was your experience, in a way, connected you with lupus?
Yeah, I mean, I think what that experience really brought to me was the awareness that there's a lot of people going through something, and the name of it doesn't really matter. It's the experience of whatever it is that the person is going through. You can call it cancer, you can call it lupus, you can call it diabetes. It's all dis-ease. And there's something very significant that happens when somebody gets sick. It's a wake-up call. And I think being able to be a contribution to the Canadian Cancer Society and to be a light and to be an advocate for those that perhaps didn't have it in them to be an advocate is an extraordinary gift of love. And so in the time that I got to experience it, you know, we created so many different programs where we were teaching people about, you know, how to do the breast exams at the time. You know, that's what the conversation was. And, you know, what a healthy diet or what nourishment really looks like, and exercise. And it's daily practices. It's creating a lifestyle. And I think more and more what we're seeing are people getting diagnosed with diseases, and it's prevalent in our society. And you look at what we're exposed to. You look at not just the environment that we live in, but there are many people that are in toxic environments.
Correct.
And it impacts your health. The manifestation of the physical in our bodies oftentimes begins within.
Correct.
And there are a lot of us that have a lot of trauma that we have not dealt with. A lot of instances where we have been hurt or we have experienced things that we've never spoken about. And during my healing journey, I ended up healing myself on a mountaintop in Indonesia, you know, and I had just gotten divorced. I had gone through some trauma, like when I was a child. And there was an emotional trauma that was holding me that needed to be released. And I was able to truly do that. And it propelled me to want to go and give back. And what's interesting is that while, you know, there definitely is a connection to the Canadian Cancer Society and being a contribution in that way, like I said, it really could have been anything else. And I know that for you, it means a lot because you've gone through your journey of, you know, from illness to wellness and from disease to victory. And it's amazing that there are all of these different organizations that support people that are going through the quiet suffering.
Correct.
And then individuals like yourselves that have taken your story and really utilized it and leveraged it to be able to really make an impact everywhere that you go, with the intention of knowing that people are suffering.
Correct.
And so, you know, the Canadian Cancer Society is an amazing organization. And I think, you know, throughout my life, it really just has been, I don't even see it as service as something that I do. It's who I am. And everywhere that I've gone or anything that I've done has an element of service to it. And one of the most exciting things, and part of why I don't go into the victimhood or victim consciousness, is because I've seen suffering, you know, whether that's seeing and going to orphanages in Tanzania or being a part of the board of directors for a charity called Help Heal Humanity, where I sit right now, and seeing the devastation of these children that don't have meals and don't have water and don't have sanitation and are dying before our eyes. There is nothing for me to complain about. And that's not to lessen the journey of going through this experience. However, it's all how we see things. It's all perspective. And I really do believe that the journey of the experience of going through disease and illness leaves you with clues along the way.
Correct. Absolutely.
And just really God is amazing. God is always directing our paths, right?
Amen.
I mean, you think of the scripture, and for those of you, you know, I am a proud believer, you know, and one of the scriptures is trust in the Lord with all your
Your
heart
heart.
and lean not in your own understandings. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your paths. And so my compass is constantly to the north. It's constantly towards God, aligning myself with that which serves. And for me, it's been such an extraordinary experience. Even like the heartache, even the wonderings, even the being alone, all of it has been such an incredible blessing. So,
Well, I always, you have to understand that while you say that, and there's people that are probably thinking, okay, what do you mean? Why do I have to suffer? It's not that. It's something that people, when we go through something like you have or myself or something that's out of your control, you start believing, and you have to believe that there is something at the other side of this challenge. I compare it to the mountain, and I talk about that in my seminar sometimes about the mountain, and you either push it or climb it or go around it. Either way, you're going to need strength or endurance or conditioning or something to make this happen. So I have to believe there's a blessing. I have to believe that God's still in control, and that's what you're referring to. One of the things I think about when you say compass, I think of I know it's weird, but I think of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I think of Johnny Depp with his little compass, and this is the one thing that everyone wants. Everyone wants this. This is his treasure, because what happens is when he looks at it, it takes him exactly to where his desires of his heart. And I've always said, scripture talks about God will give you the desires of your heart only if you believe. If you believe, then those desires are his desires for you. And I always believe that my purpose, or his purpose for my life, was going through cancer for me to actually be able to reveal not just my story, but the story of so many women that I've coached, as well as like you do. You empower a lot of women as an international speaker, and you do so much. And the problem is, or not the problem, but my reasoning for me wanting you to come on this show was because I want people to understand that just because you look amazing, just because you have all this energy that you show, just because when you speak, you're a life changer to so many people, but a lot of people need to hear your story. So I am excited for when the book is finished. I am excited for you to, in your podcast, I assume you're going to be sharing so many stories about all that uncertainty, because I think that pain is just one thing that I think everybody gets that, but it's the uncertainty. And Rowena, as we're in this uncertain time, is there a word that you can share with us that daily, weekly, monthly, hourly? I know you said gratitude. I know there's a lot of words probably that are very common, but maybe there's one word that you can define for us today that maybe can get somebody out of bed today, that can maybe get somebody to believe that whatever pain they're going through today, there is a blessing. Why not believe and just have that attitude of gratitude to keep going and see what's on the other side? Let's just go for it, right? Let's just believe for it. So if there's a word and you can define it for us, I'm excited to listen to it.
I mean, that's a really great question. And I think the power of words is so incredibly important in our healing journey as well. And, just going back to the scriptures, it's like, I am. Those two words are so powerful, and what you say after are so powerful. And can I share a little story?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So on the healing journey, when I climbed a mountain in Indonesia, I had gone to Indonesia because I was healing from some trauma, and I literally was planning to just lie on the beach and drink coconut juice. Like, that was my plan. I was like, I have bikinis, I have sundresses, and that's all I need, and I'm good. And I ended up staying at this Bali entrepreneurs resort. And I didn't know where I was going to stay the days after, but for 2 days I was there. I had selected this place. And I remember waking up in the morning, and I was going downstairs to have my fresh papaya and coconut juice, and there's a gentleman that's sitting there, this older gentleman, and he has these beautiful maps out. So I thought to myself, you know, I'm a very outgoing person. So I said, oh, are you planning to go somewhere? And he said, oh, I just got back from Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm about to climb Mount Rinjani, which is the second highest mountain in all of Indonesia. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, wow, that's amazing. You know, it's always been on my bucket list to climb this mountain, or to climb any mountain.
Any mountain.
And I just said, oh, and he goes, well, do you want to come? And I said, oh, no. I'm here to sip fresh coconut juice and, you know, be on the beach and just relax. And I remember going back to my room that night, and I was lying in bed, and I was, you know, just thinking through the day and journaling and praying. And I remember thinking to myself, here I am in Indonesia. There's a gentleman that's going to climb this mountain. Why would I not go? I have been through so much in my life, and there's this opportunity that's right there before my eyes. And I remember waking up in the morning, and I was like, I hope he didn't leave. I hope he didn't leave. And I ran to the common area, and I found him, and he was just about to leave, and I said, I'm going to come with you. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to come with you. And I had nothing. I had 3-year-old Puma shoes. I had my bikinis and my dresses. I had no backpack and no jacket. However, I had determination and a commitment to truly go beyond my comfort level and my comfort zone, to expand myself. And so I said, yes. I was like, I'm going to figure it out. I will figure it out. So I called an outfitter. I found a backpack. I wore my 3-year-old Puma shoes, and I packed whatever I could. And the trek was 3.5 days. My first mountain that I'd ever climbed, standing at 10,426 meters or something like that. It was really high. And I got sick. I was vomiting. Like, I was really, like, it was not in good shape. And I was determined. And it was the last day, it was the 3rd day. And just as I was rising up to the summit, I was about an hour away from the top of the mountain. And my body was literally like, no more. Like, you cannot go another step. And because it was a volcanic live mountain, there's ash, like the asphalt, or like the ashes from the volcano are falling on me as I'm climbing. And it reminded me of our lives. It's like, how many times have we, you know, taken 10 steps forward and had to start over, or taken 5 steps forward and 3 steps back? And it was a great example of life itself. And as I sat there and I fell to the side of the mountain, I told my group, I said, just go without me, just go ahead. And I closed my eyes. And as I closed my eyes, I just really sat still for a moment. And then I opened my eyes, and I heard God speak to me. And the word that he said was rise. It's time to rise in your purpose. And I remember getting up, and I was in so much pain. And I literally just put one foot in front of the other, and I was so determined. I could see the summit. It was so close. And I did whatever I needed to do to get to the top of that mountain. And when I got to the top of that mountain, the gratitude that I felt, I had tears just flowing down my face. And the first thing that I did was I went to God in prayer, and I said, thank you. Thank you for giving me this experience. And my word is rise.
Rise. No, I got it. Trust me, that was very obvious for me. That is very obvious.
You know, I believe that it's not the mountain that we conquer, but ourselves.
Amen.
And so I'm grateful. And so I certainly hope that whoever is listening, wherever you are on your journey, whether you're dealing with illness or not, whatever it is, we're all going through something. Know that you too can rise. And
amen.
Our lives are beautiful. So, yeah.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing the story, because now the definition of that word is very clear. I mean, that just made it very clear. So I want to thank Rowena for her amazing story of rise, but more importantly for her time today with us. And I hope that when you listen to this video, you might want to actually check out more of her story So don't worry, all the information will be on the description. But I want to say that as I listen to her story, there's a few things that come up, that there's always a connection for me. Of course, every life changer that I bring on the show, I have a connection with. But there's a few things that as I'm listening, I think of, if you think of pain, you think of uncertainty, you think of not being comfortable, being uncomfortable, all those things teach me what? It teaches me that I'm alive. If I'm uncertain about something, I'm uncomfortable about something, or I feel pain, means I'm alive. So what are you doing with that life? Because that is what we're talking about. Right now, there's two people that are talking in this interview. Both of them have gone through just enormous amount of pain. We've gone through enormous amount of uncertainty, and we certainly have been uncomfortable for a lot of that part of our lives. And you think about the mountain that she climbed, and she said, I'm just going to be committed. I'm just going to say, why not? Let's go for this. And then at the end of that, there's still even more uncertainty, and she comes up with this word of rise. And every day we're meant to rise. And why not? Give it a shot. This whole interview, everything that's been coming to me is about, every download has been about just getting up. And then she comes up with this word of rise. So I'm just asking all of you to get up, to rise, and just see what the day has. I understand that we're not in a perfect time. I understand there's a lot of things that are going on. But it doesn't take pain, and it doesn't take uncertainty, and it doesn't take being uncomfortable to try to figure out who you are, to try to figure out what your life's supposed to be. You know, when I listen to Rowena, she talks about she was healing and she was looking for something. So was I. We were all there. Don't wait till the end of the world is on top of you to rise, because then it might be too late. I hope that this interview literally gets you up to rise and just say, hey, why not? Just go for it. Let's live our lives, and let's define our life. Let's define what about our lives have been uncertain, or have made us uncomfortable, or has given us pain. I want to thank Rowena Rodriguez for everything that she has shared with us today. I really, truly am honored, and it's an amazing experience to just be able to listen to someone's story, especially when they are sharing it with a purpose. And I wish nothing but blessings upon your life and everything you do. And I know that our paths will cross again. And I look forward to whatever God has planned. So God bless you. And again, thank you for being part of Life Changers for Life. All the blessings all mine. And I leave you with my message, like I always say: find hope, have faith, and live every day with a purpose. God bless you.